I'm always just so happy to listen.
Right. I find it useful too.
And Shanti, we may see you in Amsterdam when we have a couple of days there on our way to England at the beginning of July. Yes, I hope it'd be lovely if you can join.
Yeah, yes. I'm going to do my best, yes.
Good.
You're so brave to travel so far. It's a pity Nina isn't there anymore, huh?
I know. We hope to see some of her family, but I need to contact them, yes.
And you've got family in England?
That's right. All my family are in England, yes.
Oh, that's good.
And I'll see Alan in England too.
Oh, of course. Maybe more people living there from DSG, no? In England?
Lucas, maybe?
Who?
Lucas?
Lucas. We're not sure about Lucas.
He might be there.
We haven't heard from him for some time.
No. He might come if everybody comes. He did last time, didn't he? So.
And Gabby, if you would like to meet us in Amsterdam, I'll send you the details. And if Alberta would like to meet either in Amsterdam or London, very welcome. Let's check if Ajahn, are you here now?
Yes, I'm here now.
Sawadika, Ajahn.
Sawadika, Ajahn. Sawadika.
Sawadika, Ajahn. Sawadika.
Alan, would you like to start off with any topics? I'm going to try to not use my voice too much today.
I just saw something on DSG a couple of weeks ago about it was about a sutta about abandoning unwholesome mental states and cultivating good mental states. And then there was a comment that actually that was said to enlightened beings, and that the ordinary person couldn't apply that sutta, if you like. They could only develop not the 5 precepts: not killing, not stealing, not lying, etc. And I think you made a comment that because the ordinary person doesn't know precisely that what this moment is, whether it is kusala or akusala, wholesome or unwholesome, therefore actually that sutta, they couldn't apply it. And I don't know whether, I hadn't heard that before in terms of what the sutta or who the sutta was addressing. Maybe it came from a commentary, but could we clarify that in actual fact, the ordinary person cannot really develop metta without developing satipatthana? Because if this moment isn't known precisely, then you cannot know whether it is wholesome or unwholesome. Although perhaps the intellectual understanding must be a condition to some extent. So is that clear?
Well, those before the Buddha's time could develop metta to a very high degree. They could develop samatha bhavana with metta as the object. They knew what was kusala and akusala, but they didn't understand the realities as not self. But now, if there is no understanding of what metta is, if there's no understanding of when the citta is kusala or akusala, then how can there be any development of metta or any other good states? Because if we just think about situations, I gave this help to these poor children, or I supported the monks in the temple, therefore I developed kusala today. It's not any understanding at all. So the understanding always has to come first. otherwise, how can there be any thought of abandoning unwholesome if one doesn't even know what is unwholesome at this moment? So I think that's the point, that for any kind of kusala, no matter understanding or dana or metta, it always begins with understanding.
The intellectual understanding of what metta is, would you say that is a condition for more metta? So, for example, we understand intellectually that whenever we have unpleasant feeling, for example, there's no metta. Whenever we have attachment, there's no metta. So, and we read the Metta Sutta that about not being, about that there shouldn't be aversion towards anybody. There shouldn't be ill will towards anybody. And we can become to some extent to realize that actually we do have ill will in our daily life. So that is a condition to some extent.
And what about when what about when there is the wishing to have metta, wishing to have more kindness in the day? What about the clinging to metta rather than just understanding whatever appears now? So the clinging to having goodness, to developing wholesome, to abandoning unwholesomeness is so strong. But do we appreciate the clinging even now to having metta, not having unpleasant states arising? So I think it's much more subtle, because the clinging to goodness is very deep rooted.
Yes, and the idea of self is always going to get in the way of that development.
Right. So everyone would like to be the one who has a lot of metta or has a lot of goodness, and so everyone would like to hear about metta. But what about understanding the clinging even now, even when thinking about having more metta? How to develop
really,
it?
The metta, I mean, just repeating really what we've learned, is that metta develops when the understanding of reality develops. So it's a condition, it's conditioned by that understanding. So
and I think that when there are moments of kindness or helpfulness or friendliness, those moments which arise naturally can be understood as different from the moments of clinging and wanting and trying to understand. So I think that moments of genuine friendliness or kindness to anyone around, not just the people who we like, can be the understanding of the difference between those moments and the moments of clinging, thinking of oneself, or wishing to have metta. And they're just dhammas. They're just dhammas that arise and fall away.
And the understanding,
they don't belong to I.
And that understanding of dharmas which are conditioned to arise will help to have more metta, because that other person are the way they are by conditions, no choice. They are not someone either, that it's just different realities. So if we understand that, more we understand that each moment is beyond control, that will automatically help us have
condition more metta. For sure,
because you understand the other person, that they cannot be different to what they are.
Or the animal or the insect, it has to behave that way at that time. So it can be conditioned for more understanding, more metta. Yes. I'm going to go on.
I was just thinking about the Jatakas, the birth stories. I was interested, where do they come from? Because they weren't taught by the Buddha, were they? I assume it's the Buddha's disciples. And what are we to, or how do we learn from them, in the sense that by definition they're about the stories, the situation, and not about realities? They're not helping you understand reality. I was just wondering what you think of the birth stories, and how we can progress from them.
I understand that the verses were given by the Buddha when certain events occurred, and he would say, oh, like in the past, and then the detailed story would be given. But I think I understand that they are all about realities, whatever we read about different accumulations of kusala and akusala and results. So it's all about daily life, different realities, beginning to end. But I'm going to pass to Ajahn because I need to just be a little bit careful of my voice. So Ajahn, would you like to add some comments to Alan's points?
Yes, no matter what, without conditions, nothing can arise at all. That's why who knows the accumulation in the past years ago? Maybe one had attained the degree of jhana with metta or not. But now today, whatever arises, there must be condition for its arising for sure. Just to be that reality, different stages or different characteristic and different object or situation by conditions. That's why before hearing the teachings about reality, all realities are there by conditions from moment to moment. Who knows until Buddha enlightened the truth that no matter what, it's just a conditioned realities. And who knows the past and long time ago condition to condition people to be different even now at any moment by conditions. That's all. And metta is a moment of being friendly to whatever object taken for someone or some animal or whatever is there as being. That's why it can be understood in a day when we meet the stranger or on the road or in the bus. What about metta? Is it there? Be friendly to whoever appearing, no matter where and when. It's just a reality different from other realities, conditioned by conditions, not just one conditions, and it's not just in this life. It can be from other lives accumulated, who knows. But this life can be moment of understanding what is there, has been there before as condition, arising and falling away on and on and on. Even this moment is conditioned for other moment in the future, who knows, when will it be? Just understanding that actually what is there is just a reality, no matter what degree, no matter it is wholesome or unwholesome, understanding or ignorance, or unconditioned realities. And if the nature of that which is now appearing is not known about more and more, it's impossible to not think about people and things as before, even right now while we're talking, sitting with many things around, by condition just in a moment and then gone.
So when we talk about absolute truth, you say that when it is there, and when it's not there, it's not there. So when a taste is tasted, it's there, and when it's not tasted, it's gone. But we have the idea that something is there which stays, which is wrong. So is this idea, if we're trying to pinpoint what is absolute truth, it is an absolute reality which is there and then it's gone. Could you say a bit more about absolute truth versus conventional truth?
At moment of thinking, see, it cannot be other thing Thinking cannot be seeing, cannot be hearing at all. So the truth of it is that a reality which experiences an object is there all the time, from time to time, unknown. But no matter when it experiences the object, even at moment of thinking, it's that reality which experiences the object different from seeing. That's all. There must be a reality arising and falling away, experiences an object, only one object at a time, so very quickly gone, never to return at all, sunyata. No matter it's thinking, seeing, liking, disliking, it's all there, only when it appears. And in truth, it falls away before there can be the nimitta of just one characteristic of a reality, much more quicker than anyone can imagine. That's why whatever is now appearing appear by nimitta, in the shape and form, the sign of something there as it is. For example, seeing, not just one moment of seeing. What about that which is seen? The picture with the bird and the flower and so on. How many moments? So seeing sees just that which impinged on the eye base, that's all. So now we think that it's there for some time. In truth, even it's there, it arises and falls away. But what appears is only the sign or the nimitta of that which is seen. Even it's not something yet, it is a sign of something. Because just one moment of seeing cannot be realized at all. It's gone, and it's followed by the other citta, not directly understanding that which is there and gone. Just one reality or one time.
So we have the idea of hand which is there all the time, or leg which is there all the time, but actually it's only there at the moment of thinking about it, because the hardness which is touched is gone. So it's the thinking, we think, but that thinking is just there for a very short moment. But we have this very deep rooted belief that the whole body is there all the time.
Otherwise, nothing can be object of understanding at all. If it's just one moment of seeing and then gone. But there are many moments of seeing. So when we think about hand, or I'm seeing my hand, what is seen? If there's no understanding of that which impinge on the eye base and it is seen, so many moments to be a hand or a finger or a nail. That's why understanding how short a moment is and what is there has to be experienced by just one reality. For example, seeing cannot see a hand or a nail or a finger at all. See, the truth is seeing just see. So we are now thinking that I see my nail or I see my finger or I see my hand. The thinking is there in between seeing. So many moments, taking the shape to be hand or nail or finger, or just that which is seen, nothing at all, only that is there as not finger, not nail, or not hand at all. And this is so very subtle, because in order to let go completely, absolutely, ultimately, no thing, even hand is not a hand, a nail is not a nail. It's only that which is seen, only that. That's why in life, when there is the understanding of the nature of whatever is there, just one reality, when there is the understanding, it is the moment, one day, to attend to the truth, the true nature, the characteristic of that which appears, until the other moment is not attended to be something, shape or form, just only that which is heard, just only that which is seen. And it is the moment to let go. The idea of something follow instantly. the idea, because it's just the moment of experiencing that which is there seen. See, that's why there have to be understanding of the moments which is not just that which is seen, but there are other things around as something as well. That's why what is right and what is wrong, and how deep it is to begin to attend to just one characteristic of what is now appearing, only one, from hearing, considering that each different realities are there. If there's no hearing, considering, attending to just one characteristic, there are so many things as my hand. See, hand is not just one dot of that which is seen. See, there must be fingers, otherwise it's not a hand at all. That's why life goes on by conditions so very, very rapidly until they begin to understand just one reality, to differentiate it from the other reality which follows or which are there together, but in truth never be together. Just only one object is experienced at a time. That is the first round of the Four Noble Truths. Pariyatti. Is it true? There's firm confidence of the truth. So in order to understand exactly, no I and no thing at all, no pen, no bed, no shoes, nothing at all. The first round has to be so firm, so it can condition a moment of directly attend to the characteristic which is as usual, just hardness, or what is seen, just like now, that it's only that which is there. It's not anything at all. Not anything at all. So it's not I am sitting, talking, thinking. What is there appear through just one doorway at a time. So hardness cannot be my leg or my hand or anything at all. Hardness is the only one. In order to let go the idea of other things around together, like the bed, the pillow, the mirror, the pictures, and so on. Is it true? When it's true, it can appear to right understanding when it's time to understand that which is there as it is. Because now, not understanding what is there as it is, but learn to understand what is there as it is. Until then, the truth is there. The ultimate truth is just a moment of seeing. Nothing is there at all. Only that which is seen, and no one see at all. Seeing just arises to see. No shape, no form, no one, no things around. So it's just a moment of conditioned reality, just arise to see, that's all. And then gone instantly, never to arise again. In samsara, just have confidence of the truth. And this is the way, the path to let go ignorance and the idea of so many things now. So many things now. It's there as so many things now until right understanding begin to have confidence only seeing. So at moment of only seeing, how can be I'm sitting or the bed or the picture, because seeing just sees that which appears. No ears, no arms at all. Understand more about the truth of whatever from moment to moment appearing is the only way to let go what are there all together, tangled and taken for something all the time. Even while we are talking right now, when it's not just experiences with understanding of just one reality, they're all around together.
And Alan, what you said about the deep-rooted belief that there's an I or a permanent being there all the time, I'm sure that's no doubt true. But as Ajahn said, is it true? If it appears, then it can be known. So we don't need to make assumptions about what views might be lurking there unless they appear, and then they can be known. Because I think there's a need to keep a distinction between held views and like assumptions based on experience. So, for example, we know the table that we take for the table is always solid and will bear a certain weight and isn't to be run into because it will cause injury. So that's just based on one's experience in life. There doesn't have to be a held view in relation to existence for that object in order to have that perception. Now, when it comes to our self and our being, as I say, no doubt there is a deeply held view, deeply rooted view that is lurking there. But just to make the point that unless it appears, then it can't be known. It can only be guessed at, but we don't need to really think about what might be there that's not appearing.
Mm. Otherwise, we get lost in a little story.
That's right. We're lost in the story of what could be the reality of the present moment, but it's just, the story of it. Yeah.
One more comment. You mentioned, Alan, that you heard or understood that the ordinary person couldn't apply the abandoning unwholesome or developing wholesome. But can anyone ever apply anything? Doesn't the idea of someone applying doing good or avoiding harm, doesn't it suggest someone doing something?
Yes, you're right. Yes. You can't do anything. Even selecting what you do the next day is beyond somebody doing something. Yes. Yeah, I see
So
what you mean.
no matter whether a sotapanna or a ordinary worldling, no one can apply, no one can
I suppose
abandon
that
unwholesomeness at will.
When we read the suttas about wholesome actions and deeds, that is also a condition to some extent, is it not, for wholesome deeds and action? Because by conditions, we may remember that sutta when we're about to say something unpleasant or something, and so it could condition abstaining from unpleasant speech because of what we've remembered. But again, it's nobody applying. It just depends what happens at that moment. But I think the intellectual understanding itself is a condition in itself.
It may be a condition for wrong understanding that I should apply or I should abandon unwholesomeness, because one can read all the suttas with the wrong understanding of of self, doing something, having more metta, abandoning unwholesomeness. So it can all be wrongly understood. So what's important is the understanding, not just the sutta that is read.
Yes.
But I think, Alan, what you're suggesting is that even intellectual understanding helps in encouraging other forms of kusala, right?
Yes, I think that's what I'm trying to get at, that we learn a lot about what is wholesome and what is unwholesome. And even in the Abhidharma, we learn that when there is unwholesomeness, there is agitation. So that's a reminder in our daily life that when we ever have agitation, that it is unwholesome reality there. So yes, but whether it conditions wholesome reality or not is another question, really. But yeah, I'm just saying the intellectual understanding is a condition for more wholesomeness, perhaps. Yeah, but depends. All sorts of things can happen, can't they? As you say, you might be upset because somebody doesn't listen to you or something like that. So it's not. You don't know what's going to happen at this moment.
And also, it has to be the right intellectual understanding, because again, if it's the idea of I should apply, or the sotapanna can apply, or this is the unwholesomeness to be abandoned, then actually it's not intellectual understanding, it's the wrong understanding.
No.
So it's very easy to think that because one reads a sutta about different kinds of wholesomeness, different kinds of unwholesomeness, that it's intellectual understanding, but it comes back to the citta at this very moment, the understanding here and now of what is appearing at this very moment, not just the words of the sutta. Because no one can abandon unwholesomeness. Only the lokuttara cittas can perform that function of abandoning. But there can be the wise considering about, like you mentioned, metta, friendliness, anyone, anytime, any occasion, but as a Dhamma, not as my metta. And it can be a condition for it to develop. But also when one thinks about metta, it may be with clinging. So it may be conditioned for more clinging. So it always comes back to the citta right now. And that's when the satya parami, the truthfulness, is very important.
And I think it's good to understand that there's nothing more valuable than right understanding. So it always comes back to the importance of understanding what appears, and rather than think about situations and needing to have more kusala and all that.
Yes, yeah, that is the critical issue, is to understand correctly. Yes. Yeah, it's a side issue, isn't it? But how did the Buddha develop the paramis in previous lives then? Because he wouldn't have had the teachings, would he? Well, probably in most lives he wouldn't have had the teachings. I mean, because we hear about that he developed the paramis in order to be Buddha. So
Well, I think he was special. His being a bodhisattva, some of the Buddha level, not a Savaka level, makes his accumulation special, more special. So even though those lives he hadn't heard the Dhamma, his paramis were, his kusala was more pure in the sense that it is because of previous panya and the kusala, whereas on the other hand, the kusala of people who have not heard the Dhamma, it's going to be taken for self. His was different in that regard.
Yeah, I see.
Hello there. I've just joined in, and I just heard that comment, Alan, that you were making there about paramis too. And the Buddha, he developed them to a much greater level. He was developing them, I'm still not. I'm trying to grasp your question properly, but he needed to develop them to a much higher degree for enlightenment than we do, or we don't know how far we need to go. But his ability, his level of parami was parami was much greater. And yeah, I don't know if that's helpful, but I was trying to get a sense. And I look, are the others there? Is Tanajan there, and Sarah and Jonathan, and anybody else? I haven't even checked in actually that side of it. Oh yeah, I see. Okay, all right, it's a bit clearer to me now. Yeah, and that's perhaps a good question to Tanajan, Alan, that one about parami. To what extent, yeah, I'm not sure your question, but perhaps you can best ask it again to Tanajan.
Yeah, I suppose that how did the Bodhisattva develop paramis in his previous life if he didn't have the teachings? Because as I understand it, really the paramis can only be developed when there is the understanding of the teachings. Without the teachings, that's very difficult to. Or how are they developed? So how did the Buddha develop paramis in his previous lives?
Well, he knew he had a task ahead of him. He knew he had a task, like when he it's called I'm trying to remember the Pali word. They're called the when he was given that from Dipankara Buddha, he was given the Niwatta Warana, or it's called because you have to. He sought to become a Samma Sambuddha, and he got that from as Sumedha. He was a yogi at that time, or he could have been Arahata, but he chose, well, by conditions. Choosing sounds a bit self-oriented, or perhaps even wrong view, but he has, and you have to be a jhana labhi, you have to have been well accomplished in jhana, rupa and arupa jhana. You have to have been capable of being to become arahata, and but his aim was to be Samma Sambuddha, and he got that from Dipankara. That was what's called Triyas, or many millions of lifetimes ago, and he was told that he would become the Buddha eventually, and he knew what wasn't. He had some sense of what was needed to be done, and once that was set in motion, and he was also, each Buddha is different. You've got he was a Panya Buddha. Is it 3 Asankhya's and 100,000 kappas or something? It's an incredible period of time. Different Buddhas take different periods of time. Whether you're a Wirya Buddha or a Saddha Buddha or a Panya Buddha, the Panya Buddha is the quickest, if you can call it quick, over those incredible periods of time. But they still all have to develop those parami to enable them to. That's the prerequisite for becoming Buddha. You have to develop those. That's just part of the territory that you have to, and we have to develop them to a certain level also. I'm not sure if that's answered your question, or perhaps others, or Tanajan might be able to add. Well, not only might be, I'm sure she'll be able to add to that.
And Alan, one more thing, you may maybe a question arises about Pandya Barami. That's one of the Baramis. In the case of the Bodhisattva, how would he have developed Pandya Barami in those lifetimes when he didn't hear the Dhamma? But given what Sundara just said about his accumulations being so great, that even when at the time of Dipankara Buddha, when he was, announced. It was announced that he's going to be the future Buddha. His accumulations were so great that he could have been an arahata in that life. So the panya is so great that even in lives where he didn't hear the Dhamma, the lives after that, when he didn't hear the Dhamma, he would have had what's called Chintamaya Panya, which is particular to a Buddha, the kind of thinking which is different from the rest of us. I mean, we think about Dhamma only after hearing, but he would be inclined to think not exactly about the Dhamma, but in terms of cause and effect and things like that, asking the right questions and coming to the right answer with understanding that is of his level, different from us.
Yeah, I get that. I get that point. Yeah, thank you.
Is the path to understand the truth of whatever is there at any time different from the past and to the present, or the same, never different at all? Ignorance is always ignorant, and right understanding cannot be ignorant at all. That's why the path to understand the ultimate truth of this moment has to be developed on and on and on, but same way, different by conditions for each different one, but the path has to be the understanding of the truth of what is there as it is. And they are not just only wholesome cetasika, which is right understanding. Other wholesome cetasikas are there, but not as panya at all. Each reality is different. So panya is that which understands, but without other condition, wholesome reality arising together, can there be panya? So we just talk about the subtlety of all dharmas. Each one is different, but the path is understanding the truth. So without hearing about what is the truth, how can there be the development of understanding the truth which is heard not enough? It needs more and more to consider the truth of what is there, no matter in the past or now or in the future. The truth is the truth. For example, seeing. It seems that seeing is there all the time, but is there any truth of seeing which is not known yet, but it can be known? Because no one thought about it. It's there all right. Seeing, sees, that's all. Sees not I, that's all. But that is not enough at all just to say it's not me, or it's not I, or it's a reality, or it is conditioned to see. Not enough at all. Because we heard the same words, but what about seeing right now? It just no attending to seeing as it is. The reality which arises by conditions. It cannot arise at all without its proper conditions. That's why we can consider just one reality at a time. Seeing just arises to see what? Not people and thing at all. But in truth, seeing is just a moment of seeing that which can impinge on has impinged on the eye base. It cannot see the other thing at all. It cannot see the sound, it cannot see the taste, but there is a reality which is real, but it is the reality, only one reality which can impinge on the eye base. Its characteristic. It cannot be changed. Whenever it arises, it is only that which can impinge on the eye base. And if it does not impinge on the eye base, there can never be seeing right now at all. To understand the truth that each reality appearing so short is conditioned to arise and then gone, never to arise again, little by little, to understand the ultimate truth of what is there is conditioned from nothing and then be something and then nothing again, never to arise again at all. So we learn to understand the truth of what is there in life, not only seeing, because there is not only seeing in life, there are so many realities now, right now, and no understanding of the truth of any reality at all without the words of truth from the one who has enlightened and just show the truth of what is there now. So panya, right understanding, is the chief or the beginning of understanding the truth which is there now, little by little, from hearing and with careful considering, deeper and deeper too. Just seeing it seems like so common, but in truth, it can never arise again. It can never arise at all if there's not proper conditions for it to arise. See, only seeing right now needs so many conditions. We just learn about the reality which sees is conditioned by that which impinge on the eye base. So what is the truth of the eye base and what is the truth of that which can impinge on the eye base only? The other reality is no matter what, right understanding or memory or feeling, whatever at all, cannot impinge on the eye base. Just one moment of seeing, not by anyone at all. No one can control it. No one can condition it at all. But it's there already by conditions. That's why it begins to understand the very deep and subtle truth. In truth, nothing is permanent. So there cannot be anyone or anything at all. Just one reality. And in life, the way or the path leading to understand the truth of whatever is there now, the same for all, even to the Buddha to be, or anyone right now, or anyone in the future. Right understanding is right understanding. Without it, how can there be other factors or other reality which arise together, perform its function different from this and that and so on? No one at all. Just begin to have confidence, firmer and firmer of even seeing now. It's not understood as it is, so it cannot be directly aware with understanding of the nature of it, not of any other reality. And what condition that moment of directly understanding the nature, not just the word of seeing. So that can be the understand how subtle the Dhamma is anytime. But there is the person or the one who has developed right understanding enough to be Samma Sambuddho. So we heard the word from the enlightenment about the truth to begin to consider carefully and more careful that even it's there now, it's not known. It is just heard about it and think about it now, but just now is not enough because the nature of seeing itself is only the reality which has no shape, form, sound, or anything at all. Imagine, not anything appear in life through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body, but it's a reality. Just arise and experience. No one can stop the way it is. No one can change the way it is. No one can make it remember or feel or like or dislike because it is only that which is the chief of experiences, what is there, by conditions. No doubt, no one at all. But there are different conditions for different realities arising from years and years ago, on and on and on and on to this life and the end of this life and the beginning of other life and so on. Non-stop.
Tana Janka,
Yes.
may I go may I go back to Alan's point there, and because I'm curious about it myself. When the Buddha earlier on, or was when before when he was a bodhisattva, he got that, I believe it's called a niyati vivarana from Dipankara, and Dipankara assured him that in so many eons he would become a Samma Sambuddha. How do they know? This is a strange question. I'm kind of trying to formulate it. I've never thought too much about it before, but how did he know what he had to do to get to the point? Well, he was very, very wise before he was given that assurance by Dipankara that he would become a Samma Sambuddha. But how did he know what he had to do to become Samma Sambuddha?
Are we now talking about the path for everyone?
Yeah, we're talking about the path. Yes, we are in a way. We're talking about the path, but I guess I was trying to get a sense of what Alan was saying. I was trying to get a sense of his question, and I believe it was something like, how did he know what he had to do? Because he didn't really. He must have known a little bit. He must have known something of the path because he was capable of being arahata all that time ago. But to become a Samma Sambuddha, that path is slightly different and much more complicated and much more, much higher levels of panya and mudita and compassion and everything there that's needed to get to become Samma Sambuddha. How did he know what he had to do to get to that point?
If you just sit before the Buddha, would you ask this question?
Probably not. But
you ask anyone, or even Buddha? You didn't ask.
Probably. No, I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't, but I was just curious. As I suppose people would have been in the Buddha.
But did you ask him? Only Buddha can give the answer, right?
Yeah,
and would
probably.
You ask him if you were there with him?
Well, I would probably. Well, I may do, but he might think it wasn't a very helpful question.
So
like perhaps
because only Buddha can answer.
Yeah, I know that's true. I understand, Tanajan. Yeah, it's very true. We know the path. Well, we've got some idea of what's involved with the path, how to develop understanding to get to that point of enlightenment. It's difficult. It requires a lot of commitment, a lot of careful consideration to get to that point. And along the way, those parami are developed little by little, certainly not to the level of a Samma Sambuddha, but they are being developed little by little.
Without understanding the path leading to realize the truth, will you know who's the Buddha and who's Buddha and who was Buddha? And we heard from whom what we are talking right now?
No, well, unless we've been developing the path, or unless we were very, very wise, like I'm thinking in the time of the Buddha, when, say, for example, Sariputta was looking and trying to develop, trying to attain to that place of sanctuary or peace or whatever that they were looking for in that time. And he was only when he met Assaji, and he was able to ask him a little bit about the Dhamma, because he was impressed by the behavior of Assaji, and Assaji said those very famous verses to him, and they were enough for him to become enlightened.
Yeah, and if you met Buddha or if you met Assaji, what would you say?
Well, I'd probably ask him the same question, I would probably ask him, like Sariputta did, tell me a little, who is your teacher? Tell me a little bit about what he says to attain to the place of peace. That's what I would probably ask if I was in Sariputta's position. And Dasaji, of course, he said, well, look, you should go and see the Buddha. But Sariputta persisted and asked him, well, just tell me a little bit. Tell me a little bit. And then he gave those very famous verses, Intl.Dhamma, Tupa Goa, and so on. And he became enlightened. When he heard those voices, he became Sotapanna. So that's the kind of question I guess I would have asked. What is the path to get to the place where you've arrived at?
If you met Buddha again, at him like this.
Well, yes, I probably would, something along those lines. If I didn't know anything at all, and I was interested in Nibbana or interested in the end of samsara, as they were in those days, people were interested in the end of samsara. So I would have liked.
No matter what you would like to ask him, the answer is from what he had taught for 45 years.
Yes, true. Ajahn, I understand what you're saying.
Listen to his word, like he were there and asked him.
Yeah. I guess I was speculating a bit, trying to understand a little bit where Alan was coming from, and I saw his conundrum to some extent. I thought.
So, in order to know him, what did he say about what is there now? Just one reality at a time. So very subtle, very deep, because it's there now, but no understanding of the truth of it, even it's there now.
Well, that's right. And there's that famous Pali verse, isn't it? So Dhammam passati, so mam passati. So he who sees the Dhamma, he sees me. So it's about developing Dhamma so that there can be the understanding of it. And without that development, there cannot be an understanding of it.
So just learn more about what he said, about what is there right now, for sure. What
Yeah.
did he say about feeling? What did he say about conditions, conditionality? Even just one seeing, it needs quite many conditions just to condition it, just to arise and see and then gone. See, it can be realized, but there must be the intellectual understanding so firm to condition that life is so short, each moment is conditioned to arise and then falls away, never to return at all. Is that true? No one at all.
Yes, there has to be.
Condition.
Yeah, that's true, Tanajan. There has to be the correct understanding of what the path involves, because without that correct understanding, you'll go in the wrong direction. That seems clear to me. Without that, as you've reminded us often, unless there's the correct pariyatti, there won't be that won't facilitate the patipatti, which won't allow the pativedha. So they all have to be. So there has to be, especially the correct understanding of the path at the level of pariyatti, which is the understanding that understands that Dhamma can be understood at this present moment. And then the theory that the more, in many ways, the more appreciation of the Dhamma at that level there can be, then there will be more understanding of it.
And only at moment of understanding, it is letting go ignorance and wrong understanding, which takes it for I or someone or something all the time. See?
All the time, Tanajan. Yeah, all the time. Nearly all the time, it seems to me.
Until there's no condition for whatever arises as wrong understanding, attachment to that, and so on, step by
Mm.
step.
Mm. There seems to be so much attachment, Tanajan. I wonder at times, because there seems to be so much attachment. Everything we do involves some level of attachment, it seems to me. But there can just be the understanding that appreciates that that attachment is so common. It's so it's everywhere. It permeates our lives, and that can be understood. But it seems to be, so very, very powerful and almost overwhelming at times.
And it is attached to the very long story in the past too.
Yes, well, that's true. That is true, Tanajan. Lots of stories. We have lots of stories.
So it's not time to attend to the characteristic of that which sees if we keep on talking about other things.
No, Tanajan.
And when we read the Jatakas and we are lost in the stories about what happened to this person and that person and the Bodhisattva in this life and that life, and how the Bodhisattva developed the paramis and what could be applied, or when we read the suttas and we're thinking about the stories of this person or that person, we forget the whole message about understanding the reality now, because that's the message of each Jataka, of each sutta, of each word of the Buddha. It's always about now. So when we wonder how did the Bodhisattva develop the paramis, it's like forgetting, it's like there's no confidence in what the path is now, because it is always the same path. It's always about the understanding of dharmas as not anyone, not anything at all. So that's why it has to come back to this very moment. And that's the value of the Jatakas or the suttas or the Abhidhamma or the Vinaya or any part of the teachings. Always back to this moment. Otherwise, the attachment now, when we read or we think up this question about the Bodhisattva and his paramis, the attachment even now is not known. So always back to this very moment.
Exactly right, Sarah.
And the answer is always that the paramis, just like now, accumulated, developed by conditions. And it's the same for everyone. It's always by conditions and by the accumulated tendencies. Why is metta being developed now, or understanding now, or why is there suddenly a strong attachment now? Just by accumulations and conditions. But rather than thinking why, what about just understanding it as it is now, because that's the only letting go. Otherwise, it's always this person's and that person's, forgetting about just what appears now.
And Alan, any more follow-up on your questions?
No, I think that it's about this moment, yeah. And we just get lost in the stories and things also which are just speculation, and just whereas this moment can be known, it can be proven, but what happened in the past, it's just speculation. Yeah, so it has to be this moment. And I mean, people often say, oh, that Buddhism involves a lot of belief, but actually, of course, the path itself doesn't involve belief. Because it's about
verifying what the Buddha said.
Yes, it's about this moment, and the seeing is real. It's not a belief. So it doesn't depend on belief, but it depends on understanding the Buddha's word. So
right.
But we've got to be careful that we don't get trapped in this sort of speculation and what happened 300 years ago and all of the stories, because it's a very easy road to go down. Well, we all go down it all the time, I think, to some extent or other, but it just got to be recognized that it has to be the reality now, as Sarah's well expounded. It has to be this moment, otherwise it's all a waste of time.
I suppose what we think sometimes, Alan, it seems to me that when we speculate along these ways or try to get some perhaps clarity on these areas that you alluded to earlier on, we may think it helps us to understand the Dhamma better, and that can be misleading, of course. We have, as Sarah, we've all got different accumulations, and we'll all think in different ways along these, different types of questions that we have. And I think, as I did, behind it sometimes is this idea that it might make my understanding of this Dhamma more easier or but more clearer to me. But I think that can be a bit of a trap sometimes. It's interesting, and of course our accumulations take us along those areas. But I think Sarah reminded us that what's the most valuable thing. Some of those other areas sort of they can lend to our add-ons to our accumulations, if you like, but they don't really take us to the place of understanding which we can so easily get sidetracked from.
Yes, yeah.
And all the stories, all the details will be forgotten in the end. But what about the understanding gleaned whilst reading those stories? That is what is precious. And if you tell, for example, you tell your sons about the stories of various Jatakas as stories, then they may say to you, well, this is just belief that this is what happened and it's just like a fairy tale. But that's missing the whole point about understanding kusala now, karma now, results now, seeing now, hearing now, this very moment. So without the true meaning, the understanding of dhammas now as anatta, then it is just like another story that one's reading.
Yeah, well said, Sarah. Yeah.
So, Alan, wouldn't it be true to say that trying to understand the Buddha's teachings by introducing the Jataka makes it even more hard for any understanding to arise?
I think, I suppose it's also a question of accumulation, because we don't just we have accumulation for lots of different things, don't we? And some of the stories of the Jatakas, they're quite interesting. And so long as we recognize that it's not the understanding of reality, it can just be our accumulation to read and listen to it, as opposed to reading the sutta. So I think it's a question of accumulation and recognizing that there needs to be the understanding of reality, because we do lots of different things. We read all sorts of things, the newspapers, we listen to the news, etc. None of that is relevant to the developing understanding of reality, in the sense that you can't get it from those words. But of course, if you read the Jatakas and we know about the Dharma, then anything can be the object of understanding, can't it? Because so we can read the Jatakas with the understanding of realities, and then it can be beneficial, because if we understand that these sort of things were happening because of conditioned realities. So I think that it's a matter of accumulation, but as Sarah said, I think that it's all about realities, isn't it? Abstaining from killing, it's about a conditioned moment.
And that's why
so like point... as you say, like us, we we all have accumulations for stories. We all like the Jatakas, but had we not had any understanding, and particularly heard the Abhidhamma, and which helped us a lot in that understanding, we too would like to hear the Jatakas now, but with no understanding, and end up wrong with the idea of self even more, more firm, more consolidated.
Yeah. I think with the understanding of the more the one understands the Dharma, then it doesn't matter what you're reading or doing, in the sense that it is Dharma, isn't it? So whatever you're doing is Dharma, a reality. So it's becomes less important, because there's still seeing, no matter what you're reading, there's seeing is seeing. So if we understand that that's what is important to understand, whether you're seeing a movie or seeing a Buddhist text, seeing is still seeing.
Yeah, I think that's really the valuable part of it, Alan, because as you said, our accumulations will take us in all sorts of, our different accumulations, will take us in all different directions. And the aim of Dhamma is to alleviate suffering and help understanding grow. So that what you've just alluded to is a very important reminder. There is Dhamma, no matter what your accumulations may be. And whether that's, as you said, mentioned going to the movie theatre or reading a newspaper, there are different dhammas appearing by conditions and by way of your own, accumulations. That's a valuable aspect to bear in mind.
Yes, and otherwise, I mean, you may have accumulations to play a guitar, and that's your natural life, and that accumulation can be understood because it's when you pick up the guitar, there's attachment there, but that it is a reality which can be understood. Otherwise, there's a little bit of a danger of saying, "Oh, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be doing that," in order to have more understanding, and we know that's also wrong. It has to be whatever is now, by conditions, and that could be playing guitar, or it could be reading Jatakas by accumulation.
Totally true. And sorry, you keep going, Sarah.
Going to send the more understanding of what the path now is now, and the more confidence, then whether reading the Jatakas or playing a guitar, there are less and less questions about, well, why is this one playing the guitar? Or how did the Buddha as a bodhisattva develop the paramis? Or why did this, in this life, did this act like this? Because one appreciates that now seeing arises by conditions, hearing arises by conditions, thinking this way or that way arises by conditions, understanding is accumulated now. Akusala arises by conditions and is accumulated. So there's more and more confidence in what is the truth, no matter what the story is one's reading, whether in the paper or in the Jatakas.
And also, I think,
go on.
I think that also it's a relief, as you've said in the past, not to worry about where you are or what you're doing. Otherwise, you think, oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that in order to develop understanding. But you just get rid of all of that. Life is whatever it is at this moment. It doesn't matter where you are, who you're with, or what you're doing. It's still Dharma, and that is a relief, less tense, if you like, development, isn't it? It's releasing a burden.
It's just a Dharma now. And
Yeah.
the less thought there is of what I should be doing and what I should be applying, the less thought there is of what others should be doing and applying, or what the Bodhisattva was doing and applying, and how he was developing paramis, because it's just like now, just different dharmas arising by conditions realities. And gone. Yes.
And so, any place can be the right place, because if there is the understanding of reality, no matter where, that is the right place to be. So it's not dependent on place.
No matter where.
Yeah.
and in a way there, Alan, too, you've answered your original question, is that, whatever reality appears, that is a part of the development of the paramis. So, and all Buddhas would do that in their own unique ways. There wouldn't be any sort of particular template that each one has to follow. That wouldn't make any sense. So we can begin to see that, the path is the path, and it's developed slowly and by conditions and over, vast time frames, or, millions and very, very long periods of time. And the more that understanding is, and I think it's such a good reminder, is that this idea that we shouldn't be doing something like, I shouldn't be doing that, which we know is nothing to do with development of understanding. And the more that's appreciated, the more understanding there can be. So I just think, in a way, you've kind of answered your original question.
Thank you.
Eve, were you trying to speak? Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, Sarah. Alan, may I just observe that too, in terms of the Jataka stories? I can remember years ago when I started hearing the Dhamma, I loved the Jataka stories. And I remember coming across a little volume of Jataka stories for children, and they were just perfect at that time. From, as you suggested, my accumulations for liking information in the form of a story, etc. And so I look back on that as just being part of the process, the development, and I appreciate now how they can be seen very differently and understood very differently in Abhidharma terms. But at a particular point in time, they actually served a purpose, and I'm actually grateful for that. So yes, in fact, I think it's possible at any time to find meaning in terms of like dharmic meaning in whatever the tendency is that presents itself. If there's the perspective, as you've just said, Sarah, of the present moment.
Yeah, well, I would say the same about me. I had especially when I was bringing my children up, that little book of Jatakas was I really enjoyed reading them out, and yeah.
Yes. Because actually, there must be a point when we are like children of the Dhamma. And
yes.
Frankly, I'm probably only around about teenage stage. Long way to go.
Yeah, we're all beginners.
I notice time is getting near to the end, so I'd invite Ajahn to come in and say a few more words, please.
We learn to understand this moment when we say, come back to this moment. What is there? This moment is not known at all. For example, what is there now? Come back to now. Seeing is not known as it is. And even while we are talking about Chataka and so on, no understanding of the moment of thinking and talking, that actually they are Dhammas. That's why we take time, usually, thinking about this or that. Even right now, what is that? Thinking about it. But only thinking is not enough at all. The truth of it has been told before about what is there, not self. See, because we think that I am talking about Chataka right now, but what is there at moment of I am talking about Chataka now? See, that's why coming back to this moment has to be what is there at that very moment. Because there is not just seeing, there is thinking, and there is talking, and there is feeling. For example, I like the Chataka very much, see, but what can be the understanding out of thinking about Chataka or reading or talking about it? There are so many truths we can talk about. For example, that in Chataka there's the king and so on, but where were they now? See, it's only in the long time before, and now it's the person, the king, or as he was once, and so on. There can be a lot of talking about something, little by little, for the other to think about it, little by little too. Or there can be question from what you said, and then what and what and what. That's the way to learn to understand even Chataka, not just the story in the past, but the truth of that story. The people in the story, where were they now or where they are now? See, we can talk about little by little. And can anyone be the person in Chataka before? Who knows? What can we know? What can be known is right now, deeper and deeper, clearer and clearer of now what is there. Come back to this moment now. What moment? We can talk about one moment. What are there? Not just one reality. For example, at moment of seeing, there's that which is seen. At moment of hearing, there is hearing and sound. No one at all. Until no one is there. Only a reality appearing from moment to moment. Before it can appear just as it is, it means only one at a time. Clearer. So now, each word of teachings just talk about the truth. What is there now does not appear well, because they appear together, so many things wrong. So how can anyone appear well? See, without a little more understanding of each word, it cannot appear well at all. That's why just one word about now can be talked about by different aspects too. And this is studying Dhamma or learning Dhamma, because Dhamma is right now, not just the word, but it's Adhamma, Adhamma, Adhamma appearing in God. That's why just study Dhamma is begin to understand what is the what, because what is there just appear and gone. So there can be other reality that we can talk about now and now and now, different moments, but seeing is seeing, hearing is hearing, and the reality which sees or hears does not appear well yet. So even just one word can condition moment of beginning to understand the truth of life. It's not as it appears at all. And this is the intellect understanding about life, about the world, about this moment. Until then, when we appear well, it cannot appear well at all through ignorance. Impossible. Because now it appears, but ignorant does not understand it. So how can it appear well? Because no understanding of the truth of whatever is there now. So this is the way, the path, not just for us or anyone in the past, on and on. The path is the path, the only way. And the only way is right understanding. So what is Varami? the one who doesn't have any understanding of the truth of what is there now. No matter what that person is doing, trying to get this and that, it's not part of me. But understanding that the truth is right there now, but no moment understanding clearly yet. That's why it can begin to be understood or experienced the truth a little clearer and clearer from moment to moment. And that is the path with other moment which is wholesome. Because when wholesome moment arises, it conditions more attachment and more ignorance. So it's more difficult, harder to understand the truth, even it's there today or yesterday or tomorrow. That's why only consider the truth little by little, not by anyone's will, but by conditions. So that is the beginning to understand what condition just that moment of being interested in the truth of this moment. It has to be understanding the very, very beneficial of right understanding of what is there now. If there's no right understanding now, how can it will be more? It has to develop from moment to moment, again and again and again, of that which is there in life, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking. Anytime, by conditions. And now, this moment, understanding is conditioned for the future moment of understanding, no matter what is there, because there is understanding of what is there now. So understanding is the best of all conditioned reality. And without it, there is no parami at all. It has to begin with panya parami, right understanding. And no one can have right understanding all the time. So other moment, understanding the benefit of wholesome moment can condition a little more wholesome moment by conditions. Understanding what is beneficial, what is very, very precious, can condition more moment of kusala, wholesomeness, by way of 10 paramis. And now, many paramis, not just one parami. At moment of understanding, more confidence, it is Adidana Parami of the Satya Parami, the truth, with Viriya Parami. Just talk about it again and again and again with Khanti Parami, not to forget it. Seeing is not known yet as it is. So if we don't talk about it again and again and again, as condition to begin to attain to the truth of the nature of it as only a reality. จริงไหมคะคุณจรคะ Is it true?
Think up.
Very much so.